Hey guys, I'm Tom the Tech Chap and this is the new OnePlus 6T. So what's new? Well, we get a smaller notch, a bigger battery, a slightly better low-light camera, and an in-screen fingerprint reader. And there's a couple of other little things like apps load a bit quicker and they've trimmed the bezel. But a lot has stayed the same from the 6. We get the same Snapdragon 845 processor, the same 6 or 8 gigs of RAM, the same dual-lens camera setup, and a nearly identical design, except now there's no rear fingerprint reader and they've got rid of the headphone jack. And it still lacks a few things as well, like there's still no stereo speakers, although the quality is good, but it would be nice to have dual speakers. There's no wireless charging, although personally that doesn't really bother me that much. There's still no official IP water resistance rating, although OnePlus do still say it's splash resistant. So yes, there's still room for improvement, and it is a fairly modest update over the 6, but the larger battery is by far the biggest upgrade in my opinion. The jump from a 3300 mAh battery to a 3700 mAh battery makes a big difference. At the end of a normal working day, I have about 35% of my battery left on the 6T, whereas it was closer to 20% on the 6. So they've addressed my biggest issue with the OnePlus 6, which is great to see. And of course we still get OnePlus's super fast dash charger so you can top it up really quickly. So the bigger battery is great, but what continues to stand out for me is just how nice it is to use. It's ridiculously fast. Android 9, Oxygen OS, and the lack of bloatware and long animations makes the 6T feel so slick and responsive to use. It's on par with the Pixel 3 in my opinion, and if it's anything like the OnePlus 6, you don't even get that much slowdown over time, something that we did see on the Pixel 2. The 6T also has the best implementation of gestures on any Android phone I've used, which also frees up extra room on the screen without that Android nav bar. And OnePlus's new Smart Boost feature makes apps launch even quicker than before. From what I understand, it uses small amounts of RAM, which is much faster than the storage, to cache regularly used apps. So games like PUBG load 20% faster on the 6T versus the 6, so that's pretty cool. But then again, opening normal apps like Instagram, Facebook, or Spotify, you don't really see that much difference. The 6.41-inch Full HD Plus AMOLED screen is a little bit bigger than before since they've reduced the size of that notch and the bezels. It's not Quad HD Plus, but it is still a great looking screen. Colors are rich, viewing angles are good, and you can select from a range of display options. Now let's talk about that in-screen fingerprint reader. OnePlus say they've been prototyping it since the 5T, but it took 2 more generations before they were happy with it. It uses the light from the screen to illuminate your fingerprint so the sensor underneath can scan it. It's pretty cool tech. I like the little glowing animation, it's super fast, and OnePlus say it's just as secure as the old rear fingerprint reader. But at the end of the day, it does just do the same job as the one on the back did before, and it's not quite as consistently reliable. Most of the time though, I actually just use Face Unlock, and despite that tiny teardrop notch, you get the same selfie camera and the same awesome face unlocking you got with the 6. Now one thing I was really surprised about on the OnePlus 6 was just how much better the camera was than before. OnePlus really stepped up their game. With the 6T, well, it's more of the same really. In fact, the hardware is exactly the same. What's new here is some fancy software trickery. OnePlus say they've improved the algorithm, the processing, and how the camera handles dynamic range in photos. But side by side with the OnePlus 6, I don't really see any difference at all. It's still an excellent camera though, and it trades blows with the iPhone XS, which is nearly twice the price. Detail, color, dynamic range are all excellent. What is new though is Nightscape, which is basically OnePlus's night mode, which takes a slightly longer 2-second exposure, and then after about 5 or 6 seconds of processing, quite a long time actually, you get a slightly better night shot. It gives you a more evenly lit photo with better dynamic range, and it doesn't blow out the bright areas quite as much as a regular photo. But because it's a longer exposure, any movement can result in a blurry shot, like the guy sat at the bar here. But night mode does work well and is a nice addition, but it's also coming to the OnePlus 6, which is good news, but one less reason to upgrade to the 6T. Moving on, and I recruited a couple of my friends to pose for some portrait shots, and they do look good, with a nice, natural looking bokeh effect. But what is going on with the clouds in these shots? Either it's a software bug or it really struggles with the bright highlights in portrait mode. You can actually see what's happening in these selfie portrait shots. Look at the difference in the exposure of the clouds between the normal photo and the portrait. But aside from a few blown out highlights, generally portrait mode on both the rear and the selfie cameras worked pretty well, and photos look nice. Video can be recorded in up to 4K 60, although it's only stabilized up to 4K 30. Quality is very good and it's reasonably smooth, but it's not quite as good as the iPhone XS, which not only has a much wider field of view, so there's more in the frame, but it handles the shaking of me walking around a lot better. So it's not the best camera on the market. That title is probably shared by the Pixel 3, the Mate 20 Pro and the iPhone XS right now. It's pretty impressive how close it comes. And considering it costs just £500 or $550 for the base model with 6 gigs of RAM and 128 gigs of storage, I think it's great value for money. And even if it's not a huge upgrade over the 6, and there is still room for improvement, I would highly recommend it. And it is actually now coming to T-Mobile in the US, which is a pretty big deal for OnePlus. So that's what I think, but what do you reckon? Are you tempted by the 6T? Do you think it's a decent upgrade? Let me know in the comments below. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and make sure you do subscribe and stay tuned, as I'll also be making battery and camera comparison videos for the 6T. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time right here on the Tech Chat.